Welcome to Drive the Daf. Clear, structured explanation of the daily Daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Yoma Daf Pei Dalid discusses the cures for various illnesses, beginning with how to treat the contact with or the bite of a mad dog. The Gemara will discuss which of these can be performed on Shabbos. The Gemara will focus on an extensive machlokes between the Chachamim and one of the Tanaim in the Mishnah about some of these cures and which ones they argue about. Do they argue over all of them or only some of them? The Gemara will list a number of other cures along the way. So first of all, the Gemara is discussing a mad dog. The Gemara has said that we've already seen two opinions as to what causes its madness. According to Shmuel, it's ruach ra, it's an evil spirit, and therefore you have to stay far away from it. You're only allowed to kill it by throwing something at it, not by going over to it. Gemara brings a brisa that says the same thing as Shmuel. When you kill a mad dog, you have to make sure only to throw something at it, not to get too close, because somebody who rubs against it is in danger, and somebody who's bitten by it is going to die almost for sure. What's the solution for somebody who has either of these two things happen to him? So somebody who rubs against it should throw off his clothing and run away. The Gemara says Rav Huna Beit of Yeshua was once rubbed by a mad dog in the street, and he took off his clothing and he ran away, and he said that I fulfilled through these actions by myself the pasuk that says Hachachma techaya b'halei, wisdom will give life to those who have it. Now somebody who's bitten by a mad dog, what should he do if he wants to survive? So Abai said he has to combat the evil spirit, the ruach ra that's possessing the dog, and he should bring the skin of a male polecat. He should write on it, I, his name, son of his mother's name, I'm writing on the skin of a male polecat on you, referring to the ruach ra. And you should write either of the following two things, machlokes, which is the correct version. You should either write kanti kanti kliros or kandi kandi kloros. And then you should write ka Hashem's name, Hashem tzavakos, amen amen his selah. Then he should throw off his clothing and he should bury it in a cemetery for 12 months. After 12 months, he should dig it up and burn it and scatter the ashes on the crossroads. And for those 12 months, you should be careful never to drink directly from a cup. You should only drink from a straw, copper straw, or any other type of straw, in order that he should not see his reflection. If he sees his reflection, he may see the spirit, the ruach ra that was put on him from the dog itself. Now, Abba Bar Martos, also known as Abba Bar Menyumi, had a situation like this, and his mother made a straw for him, and that way he was able to drink without seeing his reflection, and he was safe from that ruach ra. Okay, now the Gemara refers back to our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, we had seen that Rav Masya Bar Chorash says that if somebody has a certain disease in his mouth, which the Gemara here identifies as tzifidna, so that could be life-threatening, and therefore he's allowed to put medicine in his mouth even on Shabbos. The Gemara quotes that Rav Yochanan once got sick with tzifidna, and he went to a certain non-Jewish woman who prepared a cure for him, so she gave it to him on Thursday and on Friday, and he said, what should I do if I need it on Shabbos? I can't come to you on Shabbos. So she said, you won't need it on Shabbos. He said, no, but I might need it on Shabbos. What should I do? So she said, if you swear to me that you won't reveal the cure to anybody, I'll tell you how to make it, and then you could make it for yourself. So he said, I swear to the God of Israel, I will not reveal it. So she told him, and he went, and he said it over in his next drasha in front of the entire Klal Yisrael, whoever was around. He said over exactly how you make this cure. Now he did that for the benefit of the public health, so that everybody should know about it. Why should she keep the secret to herself? So Gemara asks, how could he do that? He swore he wouldn't. So Gemara says, real carefully what he swore. He said, I will not, he said to the God of Israel, I will not reveal it. That means I won't reveal it to Hashem, but I will reveal it to everybody else. So he went and he revealed it to everybody else. So he said, well, but it's still a chil Hashem. So Gemara says he told her that before he did, he told her, listen, this is what I swore. So, after she revealed the secret to him, he said, this is what I swore, so obviously I'm going to reveal it. And he explained that he's not doing it for profit. He's doing it in order to help Klal Yisrael and everyone else. Now the Gemara says, what exactly was the cure? So there's a couple of different versions of what it was exactly. The Gemara says, Rav says it was water soaked with yeast together with olive oil and salt. Rav Yemer says it was yeast itself with olive oil and salt. Rav Ashi says it was a cream made from the fat of the wing of a goose. Abaye says, I did all these things and they didn't work for me. The only thing that worked for me was there was an Arab merchant who told me they take the pit of olives that is not grown to be a third grown, burn it in a fire on top of a new hoe, and put it on the rows of your teeth. I did that, and then I was cured. Now, what causes this disease? The Gemara says it's caused either by eating hot white bread or by eating leftovers of kasa de harsna, type of fish like sardines that are left overnight. Now, how could you tell if somebody has it? How do you diagnose tefidna? So Gemara says if you put something between your teeth and blood comes out from the entire row of the teeth, so you know that is tefidna. Now, the Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan followed this cure even on Shabbos. That means that he held that you're allowed to violate an Isser D'Oraisa in order to cure tefidna. So the Gemara wants to know why. What's Isser D'Oraisa from tooth pain? So the Gemara says that Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said that tefidna spreads from the mouth to the rest of the body, and it's a problem in an internal organ, and therefore it could be life-threatening. It could get into the intestines, some kind of infection, whatever it is, and therefore it's potentially life-threatening, and you have to heal it. So now the Gemara says that Rav Yochanan is obviously following the Psak in the Mishnah of Rav Masya ben Charash. The Gemara discusses now, do the Chachamim in the Mishnah argue on Rav Masya ben Charash or not, and is it a problem that Rav Yochanan followed his Psak? Now, the way the Mishnah presents the discussion between the Chachamim and Rav Masya ben Charash is as follows. As far as somebody who's bitten by a mad dog, the Mishnah says first, the Chachamim say that the cure of feeding the person who was bitten by him the liver of the dog, which is obviously Isser, so the Chachamim say that's not a real cure, and therefore you're not allowed to do that. Or Rav Masya ben Charash says it is, and you are allowed to do that. And then the Mishnah adds, and also Rav Masya ben Charash said somebody who has tefidna, you can put medicine in his mouth on Shabbos, even though it's Chil Shabbos. So the Gemara says, Rav Yochanan says very simply, the Chachamim only argue with Rav Masya ben Charash on the first thing. They argue about the cure of feeding mad dog liver to the guy. But as far as the tefidna cure, that they agree to. So Gemara says, let's try to find, there's a number of brises that quote Rav Masya ben Charash. And the Chachamim, let's try to see if we can figure out from them to support whether or not the Chachamim argue on this cure as well. And the Gemara in the end will say that you can even prove it from our Mishnah itself. So first brisa that the Gemara brings says as follows. It quotes 3 cases. It says somebody who has jaundice, somebody who has yerokon, you're allowed to feed him the meat of a donkey. Somebody who was bitten by a mad dog, you're allowed to feed him the liver of the dog. And somebody who has pain in his mouth, you're allowed to put medicine in his mouth. Those last 2 are the 2 in our Mishnah. Now, the Bryce continues, and it says, these are the words of Rav Masya ben Charash. And Chachamim say, these, Elu, don't work. So Gemara says, Elu is an exclusive term. That means some of these, not all of these. Or that these are some things. It's excluding some things. What's it excluding? It's probably excluding this thing about the one with the pain in the mouth. So you see, like Rav Yochanan said, that the Chachamim don't argue on that. So Gemara says, no, there's a 4th thing that's not listed in this brisa at all that's being excluded, and that's bloodletting for a disease called tzeruchni. That's another thing that that is mentioned by Rav Masya bar Charash, and on that the Chachamim say that we agree to. We only argue on these 3, but not like Rav Yochanan says. They do argue on all 3 things that are in this Mishnah, including the medicine for tefidna in the mouth. Gemara says, I'll show you another brisa, and this brisa supports this conclusion. And this brisa says as follows. There are 3 things that Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi said in the name of Rav Masya bar Charash. One is bloodletting for tzeruchni. Second one is the liver for the mad dog, the bite of the mad dog. And the third one is the medicine for the pain in the mouth. And then that Chacham said, but Elu, you're not allowed to do these because these aren't real cures. Elu again is excluding something. Most logically, it's excluding the last one. It's excluding that the only 2 cures, the only 2 cures are the last 2. That's the one that they argue on, but the one that they agree to is the first one. Right? When they say these don't work, they're arguing on the last 2, and they're agreeing to the first one, which is the bloodletting for the Seruchni. Gemara says, no, not necessarily. We could say this in a way that fits with Rabbi Yochanan. We could say that they're arguing on the first two, they're agreeing to the last one, they're agreeing to the medicine for the pain in the mouth. Okay, the Gemara goes and brings another brisa. This brisa says that Rabbi Bar Shmuel brings this brisa, and it says as follows: a pregnant woman who smells food on Yom Kippur, you're allowed to feed her until she feels better. Somebody who's bitten by a mad dog, you can feed him liver from the dog, and somebody who has pain in his mouth, you're allowed to give him this medication. This is all quoted by Rav Elazar Rabbi Yossi in the name of, guess who? Rav Masi Bar Charsh. And the Chachamim say we only agree to one of these. Now, which one do you think they agree to? If they're saying we agree to the pregnant woman, that's not a chiddush. That can't be that they agree to that, because that's for sure true. Everybody knows that. They don't need to tell me that they agree to that. It's got to be referring to something else. Now, we already know that they argue about the mad dog. So it's got to be that they're saying that they agree to the medicine in the mouth. Someone says, yeah, this is a conclusive proof. And Rav Ashi says, if you actually look carefully in our Mishnah, it's also indicating that they agree to the medicine in the mouth, because the Mishnah lists the two statements of Rav Masi Bar Charsh separately. It says, first of all, he says you're allowed to eat the liver of the dog. The oid Amar Masi Bar Charsh, you're allowed to put medicine in the mouth. Now, if the Rabbanan argued on both, they should just say these are two things that Rav Masi Bar Charsh said, and the Chachamim argue. It doesn't say that. It lists them separately. It says this and v'oid, and it only mentions that the Chachamim argue on the first one, because that is indeed the only one that there's a machlokes about. The Gemara now refers back to the Mishnah where we had brought all this halachas, and the Mishnah adds a line that seems to be unnecessary. It says you're allowed to do all these things because a safek nefashos goes l'kula. Whenever you're not sure about whether you're going to save somebody's life, you still err on the side of caution. So Gemara says, why do you have to add that line? What does that mean to teach me? Gemara says it teaches you that not only is a safek nefashos doche, push away this Shabbos, it even pushes away next Shabbos. The Gemara explains. You have a situation in which you need to give somebody medication for 8 days, and all 8 days of the medication are violating Shabbos. Now, you get the diagnosis on Shabbos, so you could start today, and then you'll have to do 8 days, which will include 2 Shabbos. So the Gemara says you're allowed to do that. You don't say, well, wait till Sunday, that way you only have to be Mechal 1 Shabbos. No, you do it this Shabbos, and you'll be Mechal next Shabbos, and that's okay, because Pekuach Nefesh pushes away Shabbos in all circumstances. Some more quotes are brisa with a similar idea, because you're allowed to heat water for a sick person on Shabbos, whether to give him to drink hot water or to wash him in hot water, and that's true for this Shabbos and for next Shabbos, and you don't say wait until the weekday, maybe he'll make it until the weekday, and he'll survive, and you won't have to be Mechal Shabbos. This Shabbos, you're allowed to do it even in all Shabbos that are involved. What's the reason? Safik nefashos dochas Shabbos. Not only this Shabbos, but even next Shabbos. Now, that brisa continues, and it says that this mitzvah of saving a person's life, you do with a gadol b'Yisrael, any adult male Yisrael should do it. You should not go looking for a guy to do it. You should not go looking for a kusi. It's questionable whether he's a Jew or a guy to do it. You should not go looking for anybody else. It should be done by adult males. You shouldn't try to find excuses. Do it, and do it properly right away. Now, who can decide that this has to be done? So here the Brisa says you don't necessarily follow the word of women or kusim. You only follow the word of adult males. And that's true for their opinion which stands alone. However, if you're adding their opinion to other opinions in order to count opinions, like we've seen in the Daf yesterday, that you count opinions to decide what to do, so there you do count the opinion of the women and the kusim. They do count as an extra opinion for whichever side they take. Okay, now we have a brisa that discusses different types of situations of life-threatening danger, and the brisa says in all of them, the faster you move, the better. The one who moves quickly is meshubach, he's praiseworthy, and you do not have to ask a shayla to see whether you're supposed to do it or not. You just go ahead and move as fast as you can, even though you're doing a malacha, violating an Isser Shabbos, you're saving a person's life, you're supposed to do that right away. So now the Brisa brings a number of examples. If a child falls into the sea, spread out a net and save him. move as fast as you can, and it's praiseworthy. You do not need to get rishos from the Beis Din. You just go right ahead, and even though he does the malacha of catching fish. See a child that fell into a pit, so you'll have to break down part of the wall of the pit, even though you're making a step, which you might even have kavanah to do, and that's chilul Shabbos. Still, do as fast as you can. Don't go ask rishos from the Beis Din. Next example is, so if a child is locked in a room, so that's a sakana. The child can get scared locked in a room by himself. You're allowed to break down the door, even though you're intending to make firewood out of the door. Again, the faster you move, the better. And don't ask rishos from the Beis. Now the Gemara wants to know, why do you need to teach me all three examples? Where it says each one is an additional chiddush over the one before it. The yam, you may think there you don't have to ask rishos, and you just move fast because he could get swept away. By the time he'll come back, he'll be gone. But the pit, he'll stay in the bottom of the pit. He's not going to run away from there. So maybe I should ask rishos. Now, at the bottom of the pit, though, he might be frightened and I can't calm him down. But if he's just locked in a room, so from the other side of the door, I could play games with him, with nuts, whatever it is, maybe I should send somebody to ask. If it comes to say in all three, these are situations of life-threatening, life danger, you should not ask, just go act right away. Now, the Brisa adds one more line. The Brisa says if you have a fire, you're allowed to block it with kalim filled with water or anything else you can to put the fire out or to block the fire in order to save people's lives. The Gemara says, what's the chiddush of that? The Gemara says, even though it's traveling to a different chutzner, it's not in your chutzner, you're allowed to go block it from spreading to a different chutzner where it might cause a danger to people there. Okay, now the Gemara brings a statement from Rav Yosef and Rav Yehuda and Shmuel. Shmuel says, as far as the halachas of pikuach nefesh, saving life, you don't follow rov. You don't follow the rule of majority. What does that mean? You don't follow the rule of majority. So the Gemara says, let's discuss the cases. Let's say a building collapsed and you're not sure who's under there. So if it's a Jew, you save him. So the Gemara says, what if I don't know if it's a Jew? If there were 9 Jews and 1 Kusi, 9 Yisrael and 1 Kusi, so then for sure you should save them. That even the rove there, the majority says that it's Yisrael underneath there, so you should go in there and save them. If it's talking about 50-50, so then you don't need majority to get involved. You always go l'kula, you always err on the side of caution. So it must be that it's talking about majority Kusim and minority Yisrael. And Shmuel is saying you don't worry about the majority, you don't assume that it's the Kusi that's under there, you save him because it might be Yisrael. So Gemara says it's not a chiddush either. Because we have a rule all around Shas, whenever a group of people are standing in one place, and they're fixed in their location, we view it as 50-50. It's only when something leaves the group that we follow the majority and we say the object or the person which left is from the majority. But as long as they stay in one spot, 50-50. So here also they're staying in one spot, the building fell on them, it should be 50-50, you should be able to assume, you should be able to go l'kula because of pikuach nefesh, even if you do follow the majority. So Gemara says, so the cases where they went to a different yard, where they traveled to a different yard, and over there it fell on them, and so some of them went to a different yard. And Shmuel is saying only that even if some went and the majority were kusim, you don't follow the majority rule. So the Gemara says this does not fit. This does not fit with a statement we've seen of Rav Asidim of Rav Yechanan. It says if you have a group of kusim and a Yisrael in one yard, and they go to a different yard, and they get trapped under a collapsed building, so you do not dig them out because you don't know who's under there, and you assume that it's from the majority. So Gemara says it depends if they all went or if only one of them or if only some of them went. If they all went, then you do dig them out. You don't worry about majority because you know that there's Yisrael in there for sure at some point. If, however, only some of them went, then you assume the ones from the majority went, and then you will not dig them.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.